Close enough.
Knows everything about the company we'll find out. So it's mind-blowing what all he knows about marketing. So we're happy to have you here, Chip. And the reason I have this thing in my hand, when we get to the Q&A afterwards, the IT department, it's the microphone. So I'm not turning it on right now, but so when you ask a question, I can like, okay. And the reason that we are doing it is not that we know hear each other right now, but on the video, it doesn't pick up the questions. So it'll be fun. Ask questions so I can throw this to you. So,
Okay, thanks. So I'm glad to see we have a big crowd here. So I'm glad that you've come to hear me talk about market research. Market research is hard. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right off. You would think that this is something that is pretty simple, but it's not. Probably one of the most difficult things that you're going to do in your classes here, and if you get out in the business world, is market research, because it's not just about consumers. It's also about companies. It's also about products. It's market share. It's a melding of information. So what I'm going to talk to you today is just the tip of the iceberg. There's no way that I can teach you how to do market research. I can give you some general tips, and then I can help you think through your process. Does anybody here think that they're going to be going through the InNOLEvation challenge? Great. So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions about, do you have a product? Do you think you're going to do something? What does it look like? Is it a local product? Is it a national product? That's one of the challenges, is that it depends. I hate to say that, it depends, but so take, for instance, something like a hat. You could say, well, what's the market share for hats in the US? That's one way of looking at it. But then you might say, well, let's look at hats at Florida State. So you're only looking at you're more looking at the Florida State crowd. So you need to understand how many people have attended school in Florida State, how many people are potential customers of stuff like that, and then try and meld those two together. Does that make sense? Okay. So what I've done is I've created this guide. It's guides.lib.fsu.edu/market research. This is going to become a permanent guide on the library's homepage. So market research is going to be there. Again, it's only going to be the tip of the iceberg for you guys. And so most of what goes on out once you graduate, when you do market research, is primary research. So by that I mean it's interviewing people to kind of get a feel for what they'd buy, how much they'd spend, trying to understand their desires so that you can build a product that meets their needs, right? In some cases, you might do some primary research for the project that you're working on. Most of the stuff I'm going to talk to you today is about secondary research. So that's stuff that is already prepackaged, so that as you build a business plan, you're just trying to kind of get a feel. You're trying to understand what's the market look like, how big is it, how long is it going to last, what's some general demographics. But as you move forward, you might get more and more specific, in which case you're going to probably do, you're going to want to do surveys or focus groups and things like that. If you get to that point and you're still in college, we have a thing called Sage Research Methods online. It's right in the first part here. It's a fantastic tool for understanding how to do virtually any type of primary research. So if you need to do primary research, take a look at that Sage guide. So that's about the most I can help you with primary research right now. We'll get back to that if you have questions a little later. But what I want to start off with is the market piece here. Because that's the real start for your business or your business plan, is you need to try and understand how, what's the potential. So does anybody have like a company that they're thinking about doing, or a product that they're thinking about starting? Caffeinated smoothies. Okay, so that's a great example. So are you looking to do caffeinated smoothies at the local level or at the national level? So let's start with a local issue. So you might want to start by saying, okay, we need to understand who are the potential customers for a caffeinated smoothie, right? So you might start by saying, okay, well, we need to start thinking about students and business people, and so you need to start looking at the resources at the local level, and you want to try and get a idea of like the smoothie market. So like, since we're talking about, you can go on to some of these really large tools we have, like Mintel. We're going to talk more about this in a little bit, but there's a tool we have called Mintel Research, or Mintel Academic, and that covers the smoothie market at the national level. But you're starting at the local level. So how would you get started at a local level? So you might start by talking to people, but also you could even get even more basic than that. You could just pull up Google Maps and type in smoothie and see what pops up on Google Maps, right? And so you start getting a list of all the different places that sell smoothies, right? And then you might kind of start saying, well, what's the potential for these companies to become my competitor? So if I'm doing something different and becoming successful, what companies are going to start mimicking my product? So that might be your first step in trying to understand. Here in Tallahassee, we have 10 smoothie shops, right? You might do some research in the Tallahassee Democrat, see if there's ever been an article on smoothies. Somebody may have written an article about, smoothies coming to Tallahassee and how big is the market and how, what's the potential market in Tallahassee, right? Then you kind of start looking at what's the attractiveness of this. Are people changing their breakfast habits? Are they trying to be more healthful? Are they trying to acquire more, vegetables in their diet? Or fruits in their diet. So that might be another piece that you want to include, a little component that you want to include. And then finally, you want to start saying, okay, well, who makes most of the smoothies? So who are my competitors? And try and build so what's one of the biggest smoothie shops in town? Smoothie King, or what's the fresh one around here? It's on Tennessee Street, Tropical Smoothie. So, and that's a Florida company. So that might be a key competitor, right? So you're trying to understand, you do some research on them, and you start trying to build a model around them. Maybe I develop this and just sell that to them. Maybe you can just develop the syrup or the caffeinated taste or the caffeinated insert into that, instead of trying to open up a smoothie shop, right? Because that's really what it sounds like. What you want to do is maybe just make that, it's not being a smoothie shop owner, it's being a caffeinated smoothie. So now you're talking about like a product now. And then you can sell that to multiple places, right? Not just in one shop. Now you can start going national. So See how we went from starting at a local level and then went up to a national level. That's exactly the problem. There's no, wherever you start, you're going to start pulling pieces of information together, and before you know it, you kind of understand not only the national level, but you're going to have a really good understanding of the local. And it's quite possible that you might be the best expert in the world on setting up caffeinated smoothie product in Tallahassee, right? So you're the expert. People are going to come to you now to once caffeinated smoothies catch on, you become the expert. So think in terms of how can I acquire that knowledge? Who would know? Who do I need to talk to? So every project that you start in market research is unique. There is no one standard way to approach all of these projects, except I think there are three things that you really need to start with in order to start your marketing plan. You need to understand what trends are driving the industry. So whatever product you're trying to build, whatever industry you're in, you want to try and understand those trends. The second thing is market size. So how big is that market? So how big is the smoothie market in Tallahassee? How big is it in Florida? How big is it in the United States and in the world? And there might be other players. So when you start thinking, okay, it's just smoothie shops, there might be other groups of products that are sold in concert with smoothies. So, for instance, or services that are sold in concert with smoothies, right? So where else would you find? What's a common place to find smoothie shops? Airports? The gym. That's what I was thinking of right off. So where else? Salons? The mall. Oh, the mall. The mall. Definitely. The mall could be a good. But malls are dying. So there's your industry trend that you kind of have to think about. What would drive that? Why would you go to a mall? So, and then attractiveness. That's kind of a strange term to use, but how attractive is this industry to be in? Is there a long enough time span that you can build up and get significant traction in the marketplace before it disappears? So a good example is, how many of you had silly bands when you were a kid? Okay, how many of you have no clue what I'm talking about? Okay, see, it's all the old people. I had a kid that was your age. So silly bands, this was a product they were basically rubber bands in the shapes of different creatures and animals and everything, and people were insane over them, right? You would buy bags of them, you would sell them, you would trade for them, you would do anything for silly bands. Very attractive for about 2 years. So the older crowd, how many of you still have a Beanie Baby or two tucked in back of your garage? Yeah, okay. So, that's a great collectible market that was sold to people as a collector's market, and it's not a collector's market. It was kind of a scam. So how long was that market? How long did it last? 6 years, maybe? So it was great if you were a Beanie Baby, the manufacturer of Beanie Babies. But everybody else who was trying to make a buck after it didn't do so well. So think about how attractive is that market. How long can you get into that market space? So, you know, I'm trying to think of like, so how long do you think these, like the Lime scooters are going to be around? That's a great market. So think about this, right? So the scooter market, the electric scooters. So you guys are as big as the baby boomer generation. You do know that, don't you? Yes, this cohort that's first in college right now, the millennial generation is as big as the baby boomer generation. They're still millennials, but baby boomers are dying off, and they're now about equivalent to, yeah, we're collectible. So baby boomers and that. So think about how long, you know, baby boomers did there's certain activities that they did that they no longer do. So why is that, do you think? Well, we got old, okay? So I don't play football anymore, right? And millennials right now are, a lot of people played, how many played lacrosse in high school or played lacrosse with friends, you know? So lacrosse is an extremely aggressive game. By the time you get to like 35, 40, you're not going to be playing lacrosse anymore. So lacrosse right now is peaking, and it's going to decline over time. As long as they can keep getting people involved in the game, though, it'll keep taking off. Football I've seen some really scary statistics that a lot of families are not getting their children involved in football. And that's going to lead to some interesting changes possibly in the future. Esports are becoming really popular right now. What's that going to do? You know? So think about those trends and how attractive is that market, and what time length do you think that market can last? Right? And then finally, the big piece is market share of your competitors. Again, if you're trying to think about locally, that's difficult, right? Sometimes in some cases it may be easy, but in some cases it's going to be a little harder. So like if you were thinking about opening a Mexican restaurant in Tallahassee, you know, how big is the market here? You know, we have about 10 Mexican restaurants. So it's pretty attractive. People eat out a lot. Mexican food is still pretty popular. It's gaining even more acceptance. So that it's meeting all these, you know, what's the trend over time? Maybe you don't build as big a footprint in a restaurant. Maybe you spend more on a back of the kitchen so you can produce more, and you just deliver. Delivery is very popular right now. In fact, has anyone seen the figures that like Grubhub is building kitchens in order to stockpile food so that they can deliver it using the data that they have? Yeah, they are. They are building kitchens to stockpile food from vendors, from local providers, so that they can meet rushes. Yeah, how many of you have gotten cold food when you get it? So I mean, that's one of the tricky parts about this is trying to think through all these different trends. Now, as you build that market plan, or as you're starting to think about that company that you want to start, if you can do those three things, you're well on the way to being able to kind of answer those questions with a product. right? If you understand the trends, attractiveness also is really important to people that want to fund you. That's the first thing they're going to ask you is, how long is this going to last? If it's not going to last that long, well, if you have a product that's ready to go, maybe they'll invest because they are willing to be first in market to do that. But they want to make sure that the market's going to last long enough to penetrate fully through it. So look at who is a part of the market. So do they have are they wealthy? Are they well educated? Is it growing? So like if you look at say the cruise industry in the 70s, very, very high wealth, but the numbers were really small. And some people started thinking about that. If we can create a little luxury, add a little luxury into your life, right? So then they started the Princess Cruise Line started, and that kind of started down that whole cruising as an opportunity. Now they have ships with 5,000 people on it. I can't think of a more horrifying experience, really. I mean, everything that that cruising is sold on is on luxury, right? 5,000 people on a ship does not scream luxury to me. And so I think that's one of the challenges is you're trying to figure out how attractive is that market. Trying to think of what other things would make it attractive. The potential to make money. So your product, if it acquires the size and scope for that market, can it really clean up? I'm sure when Facebook first started, people were like, really? You want what? And then as the Facebook kind of grew, people started seeing how, there's a lot that can be done with this. This is bigger than just a list of people in your class. Think about it. If you're trying to make inroads on sales, if you're trying to meet people that actually can change things, Facebook is one of those ways. It was seen as a way to do that. So, let's take a different one. Let's look at Twitter. Twitter is a competitor to Facebook, but it's never really grown as far and as fast, and primarily because it never was able to make money. How do you make money on Twitter? It's free, right? So that's a problem. That's one of those, how attractive is Twitter? There's nothing to make money with. So it's a challenge. A lot of people have started saying, well, there's a lot of information in it. You can mine that for information. And that's what you're starting to see now. There are products on the marketplace called Crimson Hexagon. Has anyone heard of that? Crimson Hexagon takes all the Twitter feeds, all the Facebook feeds, every social media site that they can get their hands on, and aggregates that data. So you can look across all those social media sites and see trends and see problems. So. I can't hear you. Could you speak into that mic? If you twist it.
When you ask your questions, we'll throw this at you. For his smoothie shop, just say you want to open one here in Tallahassee. what I find mind-blowing is the databases you have that can show you how many people make X number of dollars in a certain area and how many cars pass by that, right? I mean, when you're really trying to pinpoint a location.
So that's a good example. So let's kind of move on from there, and let's look at some of the demographic tools that we have at the library. So what she's talking about is demographics now. So I'm going to pay no attention to this address. Yeah. Oh. So anybody? That looks good. Hang on a second here. So within that address, within 15 minutes drive time, 10 minutes drive time, and 5 minutes drive time, that's how many total employees, total establishments there are. Not that interesting, right? What if I did this? So within 10, 15 minutes, or 5, 10, and 15 minutes of that point, this is how many people lived, total households, average household income, median income, how much was being spent on alcoholic beverages, food at home, food away from home. So within 15 minutes of that site, people were spending $4,000 eating away from home. And they're spending $716 on alcoholic beverages over a year. Yes. Each household. So the median household income is $77,000 though. So you think about that, that's pretty good. So that would be a great example of where you're trying to set up a smoothie shop. You can kind of start saying, okay, well, these are the 10 sites. You know, that's one of the problems with Tallahassee. Retail-wise, there's a very small number of retail sites. A handful, actually. If you take a look around campus, how many open shops with no shop in it, you know, that are for rent are there? 0. Why? Because FSU owns basically from the IM fields all the way to the state capitol. Did you know that? Virtually all of Gain Street is owned by the FSU real estate properties group. and the boosters. So we have zero interest in letting anybody come in and open a restaurant. On Tennessee Street, there's only a handful of places. And you see they're opening 2 Chick-fil-A's directly across the street from one another. Why is that? Why would you do that? That's crazy, right? They are. You know the liquor store, the old liquor store next to the Domino's Pizza? That's going to become a Chick-fil-A. Why? Traffic, it's coming and going. They're going to own yeah, both the truck coming and going. So think about that. You know, this is a good example. That's another thing you have to think about is traffic counts. So this also does things like a daytime population comparison. You probably never thought about this, but in the morning, I live out in Killearn. In the morning, everybody leaves Killearn, and then in the evening, everybody comes back to Killearn. So if you were going to open up a smoothie shop in Killearn, terrible idea, because there's nobody there, right? But if you were opened it up at Bannerman Crossing, on the way into work, a caffeinated smoothie shop would do pretty darn good, right? So, yes, sir. They may not be owned, the property may be owned by FSU. There may be other things that are in there, like on the opposite side of Gain Street, like Iron Daisy and Voodoo Dogs. Those aren't owned by FSU. But everything on this side of Gain Street, well, yeah, this side of Gain Street. So from the, you know, the roundabout, from the roundabout all the way to Bruno. That whole stretch. And you know that beautiful park up there? That's all going to be torn down soon. Yeah, you know, not Cascades, not Cascades. Yeah, sorry. No. So it's, no, it's right, almost right across from Iron Daisy. There's like a big open space between Gain Street, between Gain Street and the Civic Center. Yeah, that's where they're going to build the brand new business school. So if any of you thought, oh, look, we'll move close to campus, especially over on this side. So look at another thing to look at is how many apartment complexes have opened up in the last 3 years? Too many. It's yeah. Well, look at Frenchtown. Basically, the first 3 or 4 streets in Frenchtown now are nothing but apartments. And then slowly but surely that will be driven back further and further into Frenchtown. It's already happening over by Ocala all the way up to basically the top of the hill, whatever that, Tharp Street. And it's only a matter of time. It's all coming in, which makes sense because there's a real need for, if you look at students and student desires, there's a lot of desire to be close to the university, to be able to walk to university, ride your bike. It also makes a heck of a lot of sense for FSU because we don't have to pay for bus service in, right? So what now? Right, so anybody here, how many students we accepted this year? 7,000, biggest class we've ever accepted. We just finished building enough to house the entire freshman year, 6,000 students, and they upped it. They jump it, and it's like, oh, okay, everybody can do what they want now. So on that note, let me show you another little. So this demographics now you have access to at FSU, but you also have access to this once you leave FSU. This is paid for by the state of Florida, and you as a Floridian citizen, I assume most of you are Floridians, have access to this. You can log on to Demographics Now, literally just type in Demographics Now and you should be able to get there, or go in through your local library. This is one of the few resources that you have access to. But if you were trying to understand, say, the student marketplace, so virtually every, how are we doing on time? Okay, good. Virtually every single university in the nation has what's known as an Office of Institutional Research. And what this is it collects all the data on you guys and me. And so that if you wanted to try and understand what students look like here at Florida State, this is a great way to do it. So they have, there's a 2017, 2018. You can see our numbers are up. Student credit hours. You can also do these things they call fact reports. And so like there's student enrollment by school or college. But they also go back in time and they have these things called fact books. So if we look at the last year's fact book, because it's complete right now, it gives you all kinds of different statistics on students. So where do you think, well, here's the geographic origin of students by Florida County. So if you were starting a smoothie, so if you had to license a smoothie company, chances are you would say, if I'm going to be smart about this, I'm going to license something that's popular down in Palm Beach, West Palm, and Miami, right? Use your noggin there. Tampa. So there's a smoothie shop that all of those have. Tropical smoothie, well, that may be a problem. So, but this gives you some indication of how many people are here, right? And where they're coming from. Yes? Where are you? Back there. Up. She's going to, why don't you just leave that on?
I'll leave it on now. I didn't screwed it in properly before I throw it.
Yeah, I was just wondering, of course, like in terms of scalability and like, location matters to an extent, but would you find it wise if someone were to say, like, for example, like, oh my God, wow, Miami's market is beautiful, but I would like to open in Tampa considering more hurricanes hit Miami and we can't afford the insurance, like, for example, the first round or something if you were to start somewhere like that, whereas you could like insure more easily like your inventory, but even like your brick and mortar if you did it like in another place.
So I would say probably Tampa would be even greater
Risk?
danger than Miami. Just saying, because it floods so much easier.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that that's a problem that we're all going to have to get used to thinking about. And so that would be one of the things that you would kind of build into your business plan. So you would say, thinking about this as we expand into Florida, we want to make sure that we're not putting our stores into places that have hurricanes, or that we only use buildings that are to a certain code and that are a certain feet above sea level. Most things in Miami now are being built higher. I don't know if you've seen a lot of the building that's going on in Miami. Almost everything down around the bay is starting to be built up. And so that's going to become more and more popular. So I think that here you know, we're actually on the spine of the Appalachians here. So like the last tail end of it. So there's, we're about 90 feet above sea level. We're in good shape. You can probably get away with certain parts of Jacksonville. Tampa's a really kind of an interesting, because they have that big bay. The bay can be pushed up up to the rivers. So even if you, it's something that you have to think about, but I wouldn't let it stop you. And insurance is something that you can use to mitigate that risk. Remember, those are the two things, right? What are the two things that you as an entrepreneur set you apart as an entrepreneur? Your ability to see opportunity, right? And your ability to manage risk. Those are the two things that make an entrepreneur, right? And so you as an entrepreneur need to be thinking about those things. And, you know, most people think of entrepreneurs as these big, huge risk takers. It's the exact opposite. They totally miss what entrepreneurship is about. It's about reducing risk, right? You hate risk. So how do we solve risk? We mitigate it through insurance, a bit better business plan, thinking about how we're going to roll this out in steps. You do a lot of planning, right? So there are other things that can be useful to you as you plan at a local level. The Office of Economic Vitality, which is a terrible name. You'd think they could use some marketing themselves, but that's the economic development area for Tallahassee and Leon County. And then the state of Florida, this is a great link too. This is free. The Florida legislature has the Office of Economic and Demographic Research. That, if you kind of watch that closely, it will tell you when we're starting to slip into, you can see the precedence of any kind of a recession. So you as a business person, abhorring risk, want to make sure that you're always kind of looking ahead, and that's a good place to kind of put on your list of things to keep checking every couple of months, because you're going to see things start tailing off. Or, you know, what happens is our tax revenue declines, and it declines in places where it doesn't normally decline. So if you watch that, you're going to get a really good picture of what's going on. There are other things that we have, things like Statistical Insight, which provides a wide range of resources. You can literally just go by like looking at different statistics here, or just put in a topic and hopefully find something. There's pretty much all these different. Does anyone remember the Statistical Abstract of the United States? No. So there used to be this book that the government, it's probably the #1 book the government published. It's called the Statistical Abstract of the U.S. And back in 2010, they discontinued it. It's been around since like 1876. It chronicled basically all of the changes in the U.S. over time. It was a fantastic resource, and it cost about $12. But they said, hey, it's available in other places. So, or it was available on the internet in all these places, so we're going to discontinue it. Well, the problem is, yes, all these resources are available in other places, but I don't have time to go looking for them. So third parties have infiltrated the market and now provide what used to be a $12 product that was free on the internet as a PDF. They now, for $5,000, will give you the same information. So again, opportunity, right? So there's always opportunity out there. You guys need to be looking for opportunities like this. But there's all kinds of different things. So say you wanted to think about crime or all kinds of different, maybe you wanted to develop a bulletproof vest or something. And this might give you some idea of how many people were killed in the line of duty. So you can use that as a tool for, the reason why we're building this vest is there's a need for this, right? So that's Statistical Insight.
That's part of ProQuest?
That's part of ProQuest, which is a big umbrella. We have a thing called Social Explorer. We only allow one person at a time to use this, and it is just heavily used by PhD students. So early in the morning is the best time to get on. Right now is probably the absolute worst time to try and get on there. But it allows you to take census data and create maps. So you can create these heat maps of demographic information. So you could say you're interested in creating a heat map for growth and things like that.
If I was using it and somebody else went to go to the zero, I'd be kicked off.
I don't think it kicks you off, but it starts a timer. So you might want to make sure you save and save often.
Why is that only one person around?
Money. This is about a $5,000 product. So there's going to be some stuff that we show you that's even more expensive. We also have this thing called Mergent Intellect. And so you can, it has a demographics. This thing is like a hodgepodge of stuff. It's got like all these things crammed into it. So it's worth kind of playing around with it. It has a demographic component. It has a residential search. So you can search for let's go. That's why. Tripp's not my name. You want to see something funny? You know when I lived there? In 1985.
Really? That's
Really? Scary, huh? Yeah, this is I saw this and I was going, this could be fun. But it also had, that's this demographics, so you can go in by zip code, and you could say, what's your zip code?
Oh, here or at home?
At home.
33441.
What's your zip code? And what's your zip code? 062. So you can look at, oh, look at that. So there's your Prism segments. So Prism is psychographics. So there's this thing called Psychographics, which looks at you as the sum of everything you buy, everything you watch, everything you subscribe to, where you live, how much money you make, your sex, are you married, what's your health look like, how old are you? All those components create this psychographic. And this is what it looks like. Table view, I think is what they want. So, see the segment code? you're put into a code. And it goes from 1 to 65, 1 being the upper crust, 65 being the trash, okay? Now, I'm just saying, but it goes all the way through. But you can now see, now you're starting to see where people live. Now I can start making generalizations about you, right? So like 68 is, park bench seniors, yeah, or Bedrock America. They like to call Bedrock America. That's a polite way of saying, let me show you what I mean. There's a, so hang on a second here. So this is what it looks like. Everything's put into these little things. And it tells you what this, it describes what it means and all that stuff. It's very complex, but it's great stuff. So you can see, they look at you as a younger to older, high dollars to low dollars, and then they put people in those, right? So this is like upper crust is affluent empty nesters. So they have these kind of groups that they do, movers and shakers, gray power, big fish, small pond. Yeah, they're cute little Maybeardville, right?
So what inspires these names? I'm seeing one called Big Fish.
So I'll show you what it inspires them. So like, let's go to,
You want a big fish, small pond, that one?
Yeah,
That one?
that's the one.
That was
okay, hang on a second here.
over by Great Power.
Let me see if we can find this. Bear with me for a second. Your 65 plus, your homeowners, elite IPA, average tech, older upper class, college educated professionals, leading citizens of their small town communities, enjoy the trappings of success, including belonging to country clubs, maintaining large investment portfolios, dining upscale. Owns a Lexus, eats a Cracker Barrel, shops at Steinmart. Ringing bells? Very, I mean, scary. You laugh, but this is scary.
So what's elite IPA mean?
Yes.
Is that what you said they like to drink?
I think that deals with your wealth. You're in the elite. So you can see it also, so again, psychographics it's the sum of all these things, and again, it is generalization. They can get very specific. This is kind of like the cheapy version, where they just make kind of broad things. I'm telling you, you guys have got giant targets on your back, every one of you, including me and you, Wendy. Everybody in this room has a target on the back. Yeah, keep looking for it. And there's a little point, and trust me, they market to you like in ways that you have no clue. It's just amazing how specific they can target you. Yes, sir.
So if we wanted to take a class about this, what class would that be?
So they do have some classes, I think, in the marketing department. What I would do is, if I were interested in this would be a great internship, right? So getting an internship at something like Claritas or Nielsen will get you a long way into this. market research, again, I told you it's not easy, but when you have all this data, there's like a company right now that collects all the, when you go in and to buy groceries at the grocery store, you pay with a credit card, all that data on you and your credit card gets sold to a third-party vendor. That third-party vendor then takes that and merges it with other things like this. Like they buy health information on you from CVS. They buy your Netflix sells your viewing history. Then they tie it into Facebook, and then they look at what you're saying on Facebook. I mean, it is scary, but that's how modern marketing works these days. And as long as you have money, you can get this data because it's expensive. And there's so much of it is trying to do something with it is always a problem. So again, the goal here is not to scare you. The goal here is not to get you to think, but it's to get you to think, but also to think about if you want to reach a crowd, how do you do it in the situation you're in? Like, if you're not Tropical Smoothie, the company that owns Tropical Smoothie, or Tropical Smoothie, they can afford this kind of stuff, right? Yeah, they can.
So if y'all have specific questions, we can pass the cube around and speak.
In fact, that
into
might be,
stuff.
I mean, I can go through this, but what I really want you guys to realize is that there are a number of resources. Experiment with them, and as you kind of come up with questions, it's probably more effective just to come in and say, I'm trying to do this, and I need information on this industry. Does that make it? I see you're going, oh, what are you trying to do?
As far as,
Are you trying to start a company, or are you trying to?
well, we have a company.
Okay.
In service, but we're actually working on starting another importing, exporting company.
Okay.
So,
So import-export is it's a whole arena in and of itself. Do you use freight forwarders, or do you do it all by drop ship, or what do you do?
well, we're learning about the industry.
Okay.
So, yeah, we don't know what we're going to be using yet. But we plan on going through different countries as well, and making those connections in those countries, to see how we could mitigate the cost of what it takes to import and then sell the product.
And, thinking about, so what countries you're thinking about going to, think about where in the United States you can find links to any country in the world here. You don't have to go overseas and look at that. You can make your links here. I know, several people that do this where they build connections in a community that has strong links back to, in fact, I work, well, go ahead. So just think about, where you can make those links here and start building from here over. And then you can maybe then start getting those introductions, using the community as a tool to reach back into that area. So I had a student that was doing some stuff in Haiti, and she was importing clothes to Haiti. And she was saying, I just don't know how to find the right people to be able to start that. And so what I said is, well, look to the community, look for ways that you can find linkages in those communities. And she was from Miami, she was able to find community people that her parents knew, and her extended community knew. And then she was able to start build those bridges over to Haiti that way.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, I mean, I can keep going if you want, but if you're ready to go, I get it. You know, we're probably right on time, right? Do you have a question?
How would you,
Wait. Oh, yeah. To the queue.
How would you estimate the average lifespan of some of the more intangible products like tech, like software?
So software is, so are you building an app? Or are you, when you say, what are the intangibles or something like that? Like Python's gonna be a one firm. You don't have to worry about that.
We're looking to create an education program, education
Ah,
software.
ed tech, now that's a different
Yeah.
question. So the question you really might want to be asking yourself is, so how big is the market for that?
Right.
Right now, it's pretty big, right? But remember, my year, I was born in 1965. My kids are 18 and 19. So right now, the population is getting ready to do this because the people that come after me, the Gen Xers, aren't having kids as much. So there's going to be this real precipitous decline. So you have to ask yourself, is that, what we're building, is that going to be viable? Again, industry trends, that means demographic trends, potential for those things. Ask yourself, has anyone done this? And if they haven't done it, you know, I can tell you, people come in and say, I got this great idea. Nobody's ever thought of this idea. And I Google it, and there it is. There's like 6 competitors. So make sure you really understand what you're trying to do, and make sure that nobody really is doing that. And I can give you some good suggestions on where to look for ed tech.
Oh, perfect.
But think about, if nobody's done something in this arena, why? Why is that? Ed tech's hard. I think a lot of people thought, oh, we can fix this one, and money poured into it. And more money did not equal success, because it's difficult. You know, the best way to teach is still you on one side of the lawn and me on the other side of the lawn, right?
Right.
You know, so we trying to build that. How many of you have had really crappy online classes, right? Why is that? Because it didn't build any community, right? That's really what people are dying for now. They want community, they want to feel part of something, they want to feel a cadre, uniqueness, right? So think about how you can build that. That's why Khan Academy has done so well, is he built a cadre, he built a, you know, people could use this together, and it solved the problem.
Right.
You know, that was probably the first new product in education that reached more people than a textbook, ever. So that should give you some kind of a pause, you know,
Right.
to think about what it is that I'm trying to do. Is it a niche, or is it something bigger than
Bigger
that?
than that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions? I'm happy to stick around and talk to you if you have like one-on-ones or.
Where can they find you?
So you can find me at the library. I live in the basement. I'm in the northeast corner next to the Cook machines. If you go to this market research site, and again, there's plenty of things to do here to kind of work through, and I've even included some templates for you so that you can work on your market plan, or if you have to do a Porter's 5 forces or SWOT analysis. All of those things are linked here. But if you go to the homepage there, you can find me. You can also schedule an appointment. We just started doing this. You control it. You actually see my calendar in real time. And if there's an opening, go ahead and grab it. Okay? And if you don't see something that you can that meets your needs, email me and we can set something up at however you need it. Okay? Thanks for your time and thanks for your attention.
I think everybody signed in, but if you didn't,
Yeah, please sign in. Get money for, points.
So it's like the three of us working together.
Okay.
One, and then information email. We're looking to do like education, not replacing anything for it. We're trying to do allow high school students to experience career. So it's like, we're thinking VR right now. That's like the thing I can't remember. It'd be the best way to put somebody into kind of.
So have you seen those magic cubes? They sell them on Amazon for 25 bucks. So it's basically the silver cube, and it's like foam,